Ducks and butterflies. That'll make sense in a minute. The top 100 wines from China. James Suckling weighs in, and he would know. And alcohol-free wines have arrived in France. Sacré bleu! Say it in so. All that and more on this episode of This Week Uncorked. Hello and welcome to episode 26 of This Week Uncorked for Monday, January 13th, 2024. I'm Brett Martin from Cork and Journey, your number one source for corkage fees, winery reviews, and more. And with that, let's get right on into this week's news. Bada-bum, bum, bum. Another one bites the dust. Well, yes, another family-owned winery has been acquired by a large conglomerate. In this case, Butterfly has completed a $1.95 billion acquisition of Duckhorn, the Duckhorn portfolio. This was announced in October of last year. It's done. It's over. Dan and Margaret founded Duckhorn. That's actually Dan and Margaret Duckhorn, if you ever wondered where the name of that wine came from. They founded it back in 1976. Margaret passed away a couple of years ago. Dan's still going strong. This was a publicly traded. They actually had gone on the New York Stock Exchange. They owned the bulk of it. It was under the symbol Napa, which was pretty cool. Only 2021 when they took themselves public. But now Butterfly has completed their acquisition, and it is now private again. And Dan is sitting pretty. So congratulations, Dan. Hopefully, Duckhorn's an interesting, they have so many, they've got the decoy, so many different labels. They're a lot like Camus, and all of the different things that Chuck Wagner's got going on there. You've got great wines, and then you've got not so great wines. Same thing with Duckhorn, but they do make some absolutely fantastic wines as well. So hopefully Butterfly treats them well, and they continue, at least on their higher end wines, they continue to keep that high level of quality up. And I didn't put this in the intro, but the San Francisco Chronicle, this is behind a paywall, but we try to make it a link that you can get to. I do the share the link thing. But Jess Lander has an article about how red wine sales are tanking at San Francisco restaurants with a quote, "We've never seen anything like this." And I say to this that perhaps it is time for restaurants to rethink the 3X, 4X ridiculous markups on their wines. Especially Napa wines. Napa wines have become so expensive that it's hard to find one for $100. And then if you walk into a restaurant, that $100 bottle of wine is $300. Well, people aren't going to order it. And I mean, so far in 2024, according to this article, at Aquelo's, which is a restaurant, wine sales are 24% lower than they were in 2023. White wine is down by 13%. Red wine is down by 27%. It's the worst they've ever seen since they've been keeping records. And Aquelo, it's not an anomaly. This is just something that is occurring at restaurants. And, we've talked about this on the show before. Why are wine sales dropping? Well, wine is too expensive. I have the antidote to that, by the way, later on when we talk about our wine of the week. Wine is ridiculously expensive. And if you are struggling and you'd like to have a cocktail, well, you can buy a $40 bottle of wine, or you can buy a $40 bottle of spirits, and you get a decent bottle of spirits for $40, and that's going to give you 26 drinks if you do 1 ounce pours. And whereas, you're going to get 4 or 5 glasses of wine out of a bottle of wine. It's just one of those things where I think the economics of wine are getting to be a bit ridiculous, and it's time to start thinking about what that looks like. Now in Napa, real estate's ridiculous. The price of everything is ridiculous. It's in California, which is ridiculously expensive. And that is reflected in the wine, which is why you go to other wine regions where the price of land is not ridiculous. The price of labor is not ridiculous. The cost of living is not ridiculous. And they can bring in their wines at a very nice profit for a much lower cost. But it's curious. I mean, that's one of the reasons we started Cork and Journey. Number one source for corkage fees is because it's oftentimes just worth it. Even if a restaurant's charging $50 corkage fee, you can bring a nice $50 bottle of wine in, which on their menu is going to probably be $150, if not a little more. Pay the $50 corkage fee and you're fine. Especially if you're bringing a $100 bottle of wine in, instead of paying $300, you just pay the $50 corkage fee. So Uh, I don't know. Maybe that'll be the new trend going forward. But we definitely have seen this. We've been talking about this all last year. We talked about the decrease in wine sales. And, this just is another one of those things that kind of brings it on home. And with that, let's get to a quick plug from our friends over at SOMM TV. If you don't know, Jason Wise and friends have started this absolutely amazing channel, if you will, that you can get on your Roku, your Apple TV, any smart TV. Amazon has it. You basically can download this application. It's relatively inexpensive. I want to say with our discount, it's coming in at like $3.50 a month, $4 a month, something like that, maybe even less. You click on the link, you're going to get 50% off your monthly subscription to it. It is jam-packed with everything a wine lover would want. You've got things on varietals, you've got episodes on regions, you have blind tastings, you have education. It goes on and on and on. And I highly recommend you, if you're a wine lover, you got to subscribe to SOMM TV and head on over there. Take advantage of that discount code, and you will love it. And I do also want to give a quick shout out to my buddy Rex Pickett. Head to rexpickettbooks.com. He's the author of Sideways, and if you use the code CORK10, you will get 10% off everything site-wise. He'll autograph the book for you. He's got 4 different books as well, 5 books actually, but 4 Sideways books, and head over there and check that out as well. With that, let's continue on with the news. And James Suckling, if you don't know, James Suckling was a wine reviewer for Wine Spectator magazine for a very, very long time. And then he went out and he started jamessuckling.com, and he does his own wine ratings. Oftentimes when you're in a wine store, if you're a Total Wine, wherever you are, you're going to see a little James Suckling sticker there with, usually he rates wines, I think, a little liberally, but anyway, if he's rating a wine at 95 points, you're guaranteed it's going to be pretty good. You might only think it's a 90-point wine, but you're still going to do pretty good on this. He's actually based out of Hong Kong, so he's well situated to understand the Chinese wine market. And you say Chinese wine market, yeah. Chinese love wine. They love French wine. They are huge consumers of wine. And so it makes sense that they would start growing wine. It's a huge country. They're in the right longitude and latitude. They can set themselves up properly. They can grow vineyards. And they've been doing so. And now we are starting to see some of this come around. So basically, they went through over 540 bottles that they did a tasting of. And they came up with their list of their top 100 wines. Some of these are 95 points. Some of them are 98 points. Their number one wine is the Chapter and Verse Syrah Hulai Reserve 2019. That's their wine of the year. They rated 95 points. I looked at the number 2 and it was 98 points. But anyway, unfortunately, I looked everywhere. I can't see how you can buy any of these wines in the States. I know there's a tariff war going on. So, by the way, over there, these wines are like $10. I imagine if they ever do get to the States, they'll be $50 because tariffs and shipping and gosh knows what. But don't know how you can get them here in the States. If someone does, please write to us because I would love to buy some of these and try them out. I think it would be interesting to try a wine from China. Who knows what the terroir is like there? Who knows what they taste like? James Suckling seems to think they're doing some pretty good stuff. So anyway, you can check that article out. That's over at jamessuckling.com. He has a subscription service. He's got a newsletter. Guy rates a lot of wines. He also does a lot of events all over the world. And he does country reviews, top wines in each country. Pretty much an expert on Italy and Spain as well. So there's a lot of stuff around that. But anyway, check out that article over at jamessuckling.com. And wrapping up the news. Well, the first alcohol-free wine store has opened in France. Personally, I have never tasted a quote-unquote good alcohol-free wine. I don't even think you should be allowed to call something wine if it doesn't have alcohol, because the entire process of wine is you have grapes, you have yeast, there's fermentation. The byproduct is carbon dioxide and alcohol, right? The yeast eat all the sugar in the grapes and they convert that sugar. That's why it's not sweet, because they eat all the sugar, and the byproduct is alcohol. Carbon dioxide comes off. That's where the heat comes when you're fermenting the grapes, and you end up with wine. And that wine is going to stop fermenting when the sugar is all gone, which is why if someone has a grape that has a Brix level that's off the charts and they harvest it and they, depending on the yeast you put in, I mean, it used to be that the yeast would die at a certain alcohol level. They still do, but they've got some yeast now that can take these wines up to 17% alcohol, which is just crazy. The old way of doing it is you would make the wine and then you would boil the alcohol off. And I guess in wine, they weren't even allowed to call that wine some sort of de-alcoholized something or other. Now, though, they're doing low temperature vacuum distillation and capturing all the aromas and then reinfusing those aromas back in the wine. And the result is something that for some reason can legally be called wine. But according to this article over at by the BBC, some discerning palates are saying they taste great. I'll have to try one. I don't know what the purpose is, but anyway, now there is a wine shop dedicated strictly to non-alcoholic wines in Bordeaux. Sacre bleu. Say it isn't so. Can't be. All right. And with that, let's move on to our wine and winery of the week. All right. We're going to Albuquerque, New Mexico to Gruet. I prefer it was called Gruet, little Guardians of the Galaxy there. But Gruet, they are really famous for their sparkling wines. They do everything in the traditional method, and they make really reasonably priced sparkling wines and very decent sparkling wines. We were lucky enough to go in and taste kind of everything. It's funny, the red wines that they're making here are not from grapes in New Mexico. They're actually harvested. They're getting their grapes from Napa, which I thought was really interesting. They've got a competent winemaker. They do really nice stuff. It was a beautiful tasting. The tasting room is lovely. Across the board, just really, really well set up. You can see the pictures. I mean, I love my life. It's a good job. But anyway, highly recommend them. Their wine club was great too. You can swap bottles out. Their winery, like I said, beautiful inside, outside views. It's kind of tucked away in over there in New Mexico. So if you're going to Albuquerque, I would highly suggest you check out Gruet or Gruet. I know they're Gruet, but anyway, and check them out. You will not be disappointed. And with that, our wine of the week is, my goodness, it's a 2018 Château Haye Saint-Estèphe. This is a beautiful, beautiful wine at $25 a bottle. We rated it 95 points. It is 50% Cabernet, 45% Merlot, 5% Petit Verdot. This is a beautiful left bank blend, and I suggest you really, really look at this. Amazing. Just absolutely an amazing wine for $25. And I put a link in there. It's still available at wine.com. This show is not dropping for a couple of days, so I'm probably going to click on that and order a bunch of them, but hopefully there'll be some left for you by the time you get over there. But at $25, you cannot go wrong. Just an absolutely, absolutely outstanding wine. And I don't even have a bottle to show you because we drank all the stuff we had. But highly recommend you check that out. For $25 a bottle, you can't go wrong. Again, how can a bottle be made in France, shipped over to the United States, land in our stores for $25 a bottle? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anyway, there's your winner. That's your pick of the week right there. And with that, let's move on to our restaurant corkage of the week. All right, Sedona, Arizona. I'd never been there until this summer. And found a really amazing wine bar there as well. Just incredible. We also found a cool little restaurant kind of tucked away in like a strip mall, but it's at the back of the strip mall. And because you're in Sedona, well, you end up with some pretty spectacular views. This is more of kind of just a nice little cafe, very casual food, nothing fancy here, but 5 stars for what they do. The ambiance is amazing. The views are absolutely amazing. If you sit on the outside deck, you're looking out at the mountains. It is just absolutely beautiful. So, if you're in Jerome, maybe you're making your way doing some wine tasting, you're making your way down to Phoenix, make the jaunt over to Sedona and check out the Hideaway House. You will not be disappointed. And again, it's one of those states that does not allow any outside alcohol to be brought into a restaurant, so no corkage fee there. But well worth the stop. And with that, it's going to wrap up our show. As always, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. Hit the like button, subscribe. Also, please follow us on social media. We would appreciate it. And with that, we'll see you next week. Cheers.